Good afternoon and welcome to the regular meeting of the City of Glendale Commission on the Status of Women. Our meetings are now open to the public and can be viewed on local cable, Charter Cable Channel 6, and AT&T UVerse Channel 99. The meeting can also be viewed online at www.glendaleca.gov by scrolling all the way to the bottom of the page and selecting live streaming, which is the third icon from the left. Members of the public are welcome to provide public comments and questions in person, or can call in during the meeting at 818-937-8100. City staff will submit these questions and comments in real time to the appropriate person during the Commission on the Status of Women meeting. May I have roll call, please?
Commissioner Roussalian,
Present.
Wajayan, Ariane,
Present.
Atians,
Present.
Chair Lambola,
Here.
ex officio Gonzalez,
Here.
ex officio Rott.
Next item, please.
The agenda for the August 14, 2023 regular meeting of the Commission on the Status of Women was posted on August 11, 2023 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
Thank you. Next item, please.
3 would be introductions and presentations. 3A, presentation Camp Rosie by YWCA Senior Program Manager Jomi Liu and Domestic Violence Services Manager Ariana Chavez. I do have a PowerPoint.
Welcome. Would you like to approach the podium?
Let me know when you want me to switch slides.
Yeah, I don't, is that,
There we go.
yes. Hello, my name is Ariana. I am the Domestic Violence Services Manager. I'll be briefly discussing our domestic violence programs, and then I will hand it off to Jomi, who will talk about Camp Rosie and the Girls Empowerment Program. Next slide. So YWCA Glendale and Pasadena offers residential and non-residential programs to support survivors' safety and healing. We also provide violence prevention education for the community at large to disrupt the cycle of violence and build a compassionate community of support for survivors. So we do have a 24-hour crisis hotline that serves Los Angeles County daily. We offer confidential support, crisis intervention, community referrals, and information about other programs and services. We do have a 45-day emergency shelter, which is Sunrise Village. This provides temporary community living environment for women and their children and pets whose safety is at immediate risk. Services offered include a safe shelter, provisions of food and essential items, case management, crisis intervention, and counseling services. Additionally, at our Domestic Violence Service Center, we offer case management services. We offer emotional support, safety planning, referrals to other social service organizations, individual counseling, and advocacy to other programs such as the Department of Public and Social Services and the Department of Children and Family Services. We also, our case managers, do court accompaniment for our survivors who are doing part of the legal system. Additionally, we offer group therapy services. So it's psychoeducational support groups, individual counseling for adults and children, and EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing psychotherapy. We also have a legal department that provides legal services for survivors every day of the year, helping them overcome their legal hurdles and break free from violence. These services include legal consultations and referrals, court accompaniment by our paralegal, assistance with divorce, child custody, and visitation, additionally with preparation of restraining orders. Our legal department for the 2022-2023 fiscal year served 44 families. Lastly, we have our housing program. So our housing program is for survivors of domestic violence. They face the same economic barriers that that challenges so many low-income people in the city of Glendale and Pasadena. The lack of affordable wages, the lack of transportation, and limited child care options. More than 50% of our clients receiving non-residential services are underemployed or unemployed. As a result, many survivors face impossible choices between staying with or returning with their abusers. In a collaboration with landlords and property managers throughout Los Angeles County, YWCA Glendale and Pasadena provides a variety of services to support the success of each participant. These services include workshops, housing identification, advocacy, connections to supported services, financial assistance, and tenant education. Last fiscal or the year of 2022, we did financial assistance of $160,000 for a full year. So we still continue for in 2023, where we provide hotel assistance, moving assistance, utility shut-off assistance, moving expenses. We also have done car repair as well, and we do all of this for our families, for our intervention work. And now I hand it off to you.
Thank you. Let me pause here and see if any of the commissioners have any questions or comments for Ariana. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And in addition to all of the essential domestic violence service work that Ariana and the amazing team do at the YWCA, I'm very happy to come in at the end of summer to recognize our collaboration on Camp Rosie. I do want to recognize that, let's see.
Go ahead.
That Camp Rosie, I think, originated as a city program. And so I just kind of want to thank the Commission on the Status of Women, City of Glendale, for continuing this amazing collaboration. I wanted to share some photos from the summer program. So here you see some familiar faces, I think, in some of the photos, showing the girls around City Hall and really allowing them the experience of learning about local government and ways in which they can get involved. And so we're very happy every year to be able to collaborate on this civic engagement program for youth. I do want to share just some highlights. So of course we see some of the girls touring chambers and also the additional areas and learn while they learned about how these different departments interact with each other. It was a lot of career exploration, excuse me, for the girls. And so we see some of the girls participating in some mock comments right there in the top right corner, as well as the girls touring, of course, the facilities. And so some amazing outcomes while we gather a Camp Rosie report. So this outcome we measured from student pre and post surveys. So this is self-reported from the students. And this was tied to their learning of careers here at City Hall. It was amazing. We saw a 29% increase in girls self-reporting that they were feeling somewhat to completely confident in their knowledge about future careers. We also received this amazing parent-guardian feedback that I'd like to share with you all. This is a parent writing in about their student's experience here. The parent wrote in, "The program has positively impacted my student by making her more confident and outgoing. Every day when she came back, she expressed her happiness and told me all about her adventures. Going to the City Hall has helped her find her passion in law and justice. Due to this program, she aspires to work in the law department." And as a friendly reminder, our girls are all ages 10 to 15. And so it is very exciting to hear this from the parent and guardian, because I'm sure maybe that student has shared their hopes and dreams at home after attending here and participating. So that was very, very uplifting to read. And as part of this expansion of the YWCA Girls Empowerment Programs, I'm happy to say that our life skills and healthy relationships focus, we saw some amazing outcomes there as well. We have healthy relationship workshops throughout the girls program in addition to the career exploration here. And I want to share that at the end of the healthy relationships workshops, we saw that 91% of girls were able to identify 3 warning signs of being in a harmful relationship. That was a 41% increase for that session. And we were happy to see students report an increase in feeling confident in resolving conflicts as well. And so we just want to thank everyone here, the Commission on the Status of Women, City of Glendale. A special thank you to Renya and Dr. Susie for really taking the time and being thoughtful and in the way that they allowed us to, open up these opportunities for girls in the city. So a special thank you to the Commission. And I think that wraps it up for YWCA. Thank you.
And kudos to the Y for continuing Camp Rosie. Is it a 2-year program now? I mean, a 2-week program now?
We have recently expanded. It is 4 sessions available in the summer, and we allow for students to sign up for 2 sessions. So we've expanded the offering just based on family comments in. So it's been a great success.
And how long is each session?
Each session is Monday through Friday.
I see.
Yes, from 8:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m.
Are you offering different things every week, or is it the same kind of curriculum?
We have some essential curriculum that we do provide, so that being some of our Girls Circle and Healthy Relationships workshops. Of course, City Hall runs through every week so that, all the cohorts are able to come here and really learn how to become civically engaged.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
I wanted to personally comment because my older daughter has participated twice, and Joey and I know each other. And what I love that during COVID, you guys pivoted to do it online, and I thought that was one of the best camps she did online. And you were able, they do things about their body and mind and how to take care of yourself. I love the aspect of healthy relationship program, and actually, I even spoke to have that be taught in our middle schools in the city for all kids, not just girls, but boys and girls, to understand what healthy relationships are. So I love your program, and I love that you continue doing it. Thank you so much for telling us about it.
Oh my gosh, thank you for those kind words.
All right, thanks again.
Thank you, ladies.
Next item on the agenda, please.
Next item would be oral communications. Discussion is limited to items not a part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. The commission may question or respond to the speaker, but there will be no debate or discussion. Staff may refer the matter to the proper department for investigation and report. Chair, we do not have any callers
Okay,
or cards.
thank you very much. Next item on the agenda, please.
Next item would be 5 consent items. 5A would be approval of minutes of the regular commission meeting held on May 8th, 2023.
Any questions or comments on the minutes? May I have a motion for this, please?
Make a motion.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Broussalian,
Yes.
Bojayan, Carrion,
I have to pass, I was not here.
Tatians,
Yes.
and Chair Lemblot.
Yes. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, please.
6 action items. 6A, selection of commission officers. 1, motion to select chair for the term of August 2023 to August 2024. 2 would be motion to select vice chair for the term of August 2023 to August 2024.
Would you provide a report for this item, please?
Staff respectfully recommends that the Commission on the Status of Women select the chair and vice chair for a 12-month term from August 2023 to August 2024. The process described below for the selection of the chair and vice chair is consistent with Robert's Rules or Order and city practice. Although this is a process that the Commission has used in the past, the Commission could by a majority vote, decide to use a different process as long as the process abides by Robert's rules or orders and is a legally permissible process, nomination, statements, and voting.
Okay, this item is open for discussion.
Can we make nominations?
Yes, yes. And if there's any discussion prior to the nominations? No? Okay. Yes.
Which,
So I think we need to start with the chair. Is there a nomination for the chair?
may I speak? All right, thank you. I'd like to renominate Chair Lambalod for the chair position.
I was going to do the same.
Same.
Okay, well, we haven't had the vote yet, but thank you. Okay, and then for vice chair.
Vote.
May I suggest that we conclude
Vote
this
now?
item and then move on, unless you are going to take them both at the same time?
Doesn't matter.
Okay, so then you accept the nomination?
Yes. Do we
Okay.
need to have a roll call?
Yes.
Okay. I accept the nomination. And roll call, please.
Commissioner Broussalian,
Yes.
Kojayan, Varian,
Yes.
Tatians,
Yes.
and congratulations, Chair Limlob.
Thank you. Okay, so we need to move on to nominations for the vice chair for the
May I
following year.
Speak?
Yes.
Thank you. I'd like to nominate Commissioner Tatians for vice chair.
I'd like to do the same. Second.
I don't believe I can, so I'm not, can I? Yes, I would like to do the same as well. Okay, so we need a roll call.
And you accept the nomination?
I do.
Yes.
Thank
So
you.
we could do roll now.
Commissioner Broussalian,
Yes.
Kojayan, Varian,
Yes.
Chair Tatians,
Yes.
and Chair Lambalot.
Yes. Okay, next item, please.
Next item is item B, Domestic Violence Awareness Month activities. One motion approving DVAM activities.
May I have a report, please?
Staff respectfully recommends that the Commission on the Status of Women provide direction regarding the proposed activities for Domestic Violence Awareness Month in October 2023. Over the years, the CSW has organized DVAM activities to raise awareness of domestic violence and to help prevent and eliminate violence within the city of Glendale. This year, there are 4 items for consideration by the Commission. One would be proclamation for Domestic Violence Awareness Month in Glendale. 2, Purple Light Nights. And we have Candlelight Vigil and Purple Tie Awards.
Okay, so may I read some additional detail, or would you like to?
You may, Chair, if you'd like.
Okay. So we've done this proclamation, we've requested the proclamation before. So the commission may consider requesting a proclamation from the mayor and the city council to designate October 2023 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in Glendale. As in previous years, this proclamation could be presented to both the commission and the Glendale YWCA, it's the Glendale and Pasadena YWCA, at the city council meeting on Tuesday, September 26, 2023 at 6 p.m. Traditionally, the chair has accepted the proclamation on behalf of the commission, and all available commissioners have also been present. So that is the proclamation portion. Then Purple Light Nights. For the past couple of years, the commission has participated in the Purple Light Nights campaign. This campaign was started by the Covington Domestic Violence Task Force in 2006. They recognize the need to provide awareness, education to the community and the business leaders, promoting healthy relationships while giving support to victims of domestic violence, and conduct fundraising projects to further these goals. Purple is the symbolic color of domestic violence, and as such, the campaign's goal is to see purple lights shining across the country and across the world on porch lights and business windows. This global campaign is currently in 32 states. Canada, and Guam. The City of Glendale and the Commission on the Status of Women can participate in this campaign by lighting City Hall in purple lights throughout the month of October. By promoting the Purple Nights Light campaign, the city can provide an opportunity to develop public awareness for domestic violence issues and build on healthy relationships. Additionally, the commission will recommend that council make a proclamation to recognize October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And then finally, Candlelight Vigil and Purple Tie Awards. The Glendale and Pasadena YWCA has expressed an interest in partnering with the commission again this year for their 5th annual Purple Tie Awards. This award was created to honor men in the community who work to support domestic violence survivors and work towards the elimination of violence against women and families in Glendale. This event will be held on October 9th. After welcoming remarks by city leaders, the YWCA, and the commission, the awardees will be honored. The event will end with the lighting of City Hall in purple lights as part of the Purple Light Nights awareness campaign. The YWCA has indicated that it is happy to work with the commission again to get their assistance in setting the program. Through this partnership, the city can design and print flyers and programs for the event. The YWCA has also asked that the commission help cover costs by sponsoring the cost of the awards that will be given to the honorees, as well as any staffing costs associated with the setup for this event. The cost for the award should not exceed $500. And then the fiscal impact there is, will not exceed $500, which will come from the commission's budget. And again, it said, the commission will cover the cost for services provided by the graphics division as well as the cost of purple filters to light City Hall. And I believe also the $500 will be going to buying the awards for the awardees, the Purple Tie awardees. And we've done this in the past, but we are now open for discussion. As you can see, there are 4 alternatives. We may approve participation in all 4 events, may approve participation in any combination of the activities. We may choose not to participate in any activities, and the commission may consider any other alternative. So this item is now open for discussion.
I had a question about the 4 items. So one I see is the proclamation. Second is Purple Lights Nights. Is the Candlelight Vigil considered a separate thing from the Purple Tie Awards?
They're done at the same time,
Okay,
but I
so-
think that's the reference to the 4 things.
Okay, great. That's what I wanted to know.
And the last few years since COVID, it's been held on the steps of City Hall rather than inside. I think it's been at the Y before, but it's outside on the steps of City Hall.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions?
No.
Any motions?
I would motion to approve alternative 1, which would be all 4 activities.
And I would second that.
Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Brusalian,
Yes.
Bojayan, Perrian,
Yes.
Tatian,
Yes.
Chair Lambalot.
Yes. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, please.
Item number C, appointments to selection committee for the 2023-2024 student ex officio member. One motion appointing 2 commissioners to the selection committee.
May I have a report, please?
Staff respectfully recommends that the Commission on the Status of Women appoint 2 commissioners to the selection committee to select and appoint 2 new student ex officio members for the 2023-2024 term. In April 2024, pursuant to the Glendale Municipal Code, Section 2.38.030, the Commission adopted Resolution 04-01, which established the qualifications, term procedure standards, and rules for the appointment of the 2 student ex officio members in 2011. The Commission adopted Resolution 11-02, which maintained the qualifications, term, procedures, standards, and rules for the appointment of the 2 student ex officio members, but altered the time frame so that the term of the student ex officio members runs from fall to summer of the following year, concurrent with an academic calendar. The committee has by precedent screened and selected the student ex officio commissioners. It is recommended that the commission establish the 2023-2024 selection committee to select the next 2 student ex officio members. The commission may appoint 2 commissioners along with 1 current student ex officio to serve on the committee. Applicants must be students at the high school level or above, including higher education, and either live in Glendale or go to school in the area served by the Glendale Unified School District in order to serve as a member. Packets of the submission will be prepared and distributed to the committee for review and screening once commissioners are appointed. It is anticipated that no more than one meeting of the committee would be needed to come to a consensus after applicants have been interviewed. Historically, the new student ex officios would be appointed by the entire commission at the following meeting, and then begin serving at the following meeting. Due to the fact that the CSW meets quarterly, staff recommends that the selection committee be granted the authority to select and appoint the 2 new students ex officio members, and for those new members to begin serving at the next CSW meeting with terms running from November 2023 to November 2024. Once the selection committee is established, staff will work with local high schools and Glendale Community College to promote the students' ex officio application process. Local service and cultural organizations will also be notified by email about the opportunity. The information will also be posted on the commission's website.
Thank you. This is now open for discussion, and I would like to volunteer to be on this ad hoc committee.
Me as well as the student ex officio.
Terrific.
I would be interested as well.
Okay, then, I think we have our 2 commissioners and the student ex officio who was permitted to be on the ad hoc committee. May I have a motion then?
Did we want to ask if there was any other interest, or?
Okay, yes. Has anyone who hasn't spoken up want to comment?
I'm good.
No? Thank you, Lucy.
Yeah, we need
Okay. All right, then we need a motion.
Can I make the motion? Yes. Great.
So the alternative,
I
let's
think
see.
we need a second.
I'll second.
So is the motion clear?
Yes,
Yes.
the motion would appoint Chair Lambalot and Vice Chair Tatians and our student ex officio to be the ad hoc committee.
Okay, great.
Got a motion and a second. Now we need a vote,
Okay.
unless there's further discussion.
No further discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioners Rusalian,
Yes.
Kojayan, Perrian,
Yes.
Tatians,
Yes.
and Chair Lambalot.
Yes. Thank you. Next item, please.
Item 7, hearing 7A, public hearing on the presentation and approval of the final draft of the 2022-2023 report on the status of women and girls in Glendale by Mount St. Mary's University. 1 motion approving the 2022-2023 report on the status of women and girls in Glendale.
Okay, may I have a report on this item? I don't believe that, excuse me, I have a report on this item. I don't believe that unless anybody on the commission disagrees, you don't need to read all of that, the report, but perhaps just down to the report provides information on the following topics, or I can read it. Okay. Staff respectfully, well, I guess I should start with last year, the Commission on the Status of Women approved a partnership with Mount St. Mary's University to produce a report on the status of women and girls in Glendale, and approved the establishment of an ad hoc committee to work on the report alongside city and Mount St. Mary's University staff. At the last meeting in May, an update was given to the CSW on the progress of the report. Currently, the final draft of the report is being presented to the commission tonight for approval, which is included as Exhibit A of this staff report. Additionally, a supplementary document was produced on Glendale's Armenian women, which is included as Exhibit 2 to the report. This report was prepared by faculty and staff at MSM review, including professional researchers, and was formatted by their graphics team. The report underwent multiple reviews by the CSW Commission Chair and the City Clerk. And the report this time provides information on the following topics: demographics, education, employment and earnings, poverty, health, safety, and leadership. And then in the rest of the staff report, you'll see the highlights are listed there. And I think I would just like to go ahead and just mention, since I was the ad hoc committee for the report, that Mount St. Mary's put together the report with data that was from various sources. And then Dr. Bajian and I reviewed it several times, went through several drafts, and one of the most interesting things when we got the initial report from Mount St. Mary's, because it's basically made up of statistics. There's not opinion in there, it's just statistics. There is text, but it's commenting on the statistics, was that Armenian women and the Armenian population was not delineated in the report. Instead, the Armenian population was considered Caucasian and fell under those statistics. And it was a very glaring omission. However, the difficulty was that there aren't that many studies and that many statistics that actually address Armenian women separate from the entire group. So we worked, and I must say Dr. Bajian was very instrumental, and she was very involved in contacting Mount St. Mary's and getting the folks there to dig deep and find the statistics that we wanted and needed. And they don't exist to some extent, for certainly probably to a large extent, but to the extent they do, we were able to have them prepare the documentation and footnotes and that sort of thing. So, and in particular, Eleanor Siebert, who was the lead researcher and put together the report, worked pretty tirelessly, too, to come up with whatever statistics she could. And that was, so we also added this year to the report, we did one in 2015, 2016. There is a highlights section at the beginning of the report. And then, as the staff report mentioned, there's the additional couple-page document on Glendale's Armenian women. Let me see, it's a few pages long. 5 pages long, I think, which is really unprecedented. We haven't had anything like that before. And then, so what we will be doing at some point, once the report is approved and approved by City Council, is holding meetings, town halls. I think Councilmember Devine mentioned the town halls, using this report to develop recommendations, City Council, et cetera. So it is, a really great resource for us in the community here. And so and then I'd like to also mention that the report was funded by a grant we received on the California Commission from the Status of Women, $25,000. And as under fiscal impact in our staff report here, it indicates that $20,000 has been spent on the writing and publishing of this report, and this was at least 4 drafts. We went back and forth. The remaining $5,000 will be used for translations, printing costs, and community outreach. So I just wanted to mention that since I was involved in the review of the report. So now the item is open for discussion.
Chair Lambalot, may I comment?
Yes.
Okay. First of all, thank you to you and Dr. Bajian for the hard work you've done in boiling this report down to the highlights. I do want to comment, or from what I recall from the 2015 report, I do recall that we did have the subject matter experts and the statisticians from Mount St. Mary's who presented their findings and the report. So I thought that was very interesting to get that information and just have them here for the rest of the commissioners if they had any questions. So that, I think, is something I would like to see before we, consider this as a final draft. I also, maybe I am wrong, but I believe the previous report, we did have, because this report is going to be used and presented at various organizations throughout Glendale, as we did in the 2015 at YWCA, et cetera, I recall a PowerPoint presentation that was presented to us as a commission, which was part of the draft approval. Am I remembering that correctly?
I don't remember that clearly, but I know that there's certainly, our intention is to prepare PowerPoint presentations, and even for the group meetings, we're not going to give, or town halls or whatever, I don't think everybody's going to read a 50-page report. There'll be certain sections that are of importance to them. That's why we stress the highlight section in this report. And so I think we have talked about even doing a 2 or 3 page highlight handout at some point when we do these presentations. But I don't recall, I do think that Dr. Siebert appeared before the commission, but I don't recall if it was afterwards or not. But I believe what she would do is simply reiterate what's here in the report. But but we certainly will prepare sections of it as are relevant for the various presentations that we'll give, town halls, et cetera, to the community.
Another question I would have is, you noted various sources. My understanding was that this report was generated based on the overall census. What would be the other sources?
Well, there's a section in the report that specifies that right here. Let's see. It is on page 6, and it goes through. The census data, as I understand it, you're talking about the United States Census,
I believe.
is very general. It's very general.
From what I recall asking Dr. Siebert at the last report presentation was that question. So, I think they do use the census, and they get local statistics out of that. And I just don't recall from the last presentation what the other sources were.
Well, they're here in the report. As I understand it, the U.S. Census is broad data. So Mount St. Mary's University had to drill down to some of the other smaller and regional reports and censuses, if that's the correct way to say it. So if you look on page 6, it starts out by saying that the report is based on reliable statistics gathered primarily by surveys of large sample sizes. The most frequently cited data source is the annual American Community Survey Program of the U.S. Census Bureau. So in other words, rather than every 10 years, they do a smaller sampling. One of the significant limitations of this published data is the classification of race and ethnicity, which we've already indicated. And then, let's see. We've also got a number of footnotes that indicate where this data came from. Let's see. So it's the ACS. Here it is. Okay. This is on page 7, the second bullet point. While the American Community Survey allows parsing of data specific to Glendale, other databases are collated on a more regional or county-wide population. In this report, where data are not specific to Glendale, regional data or data for the county as a whole is included for context. In particular, the report cites data from the following: 1, the service planning area level used by the LA County Department of Public Health. Glendale is in the San Fernando Service Planning Area 2. The city makes up 22% of the population of this planning area 2. The next one is comparison data at the county level. Glendale is a part of Los Angeles County and comprises about 2% of the county's population. However, Glendale's population is distinct from that of the county as a whole, both racially because of its higher proportion of white women and ethnically because of its prominent Armenian American community. So this information is generally added for context only. And then maternal health information is available at the regional level for the Tri-County area of Los Angeles, Ventura, and Santa Barbara counties. Hospital statistics for Glendale are included where relevant and publicly available. The local hospitals did a survey last year, and that information we presented to Mount St. Mary's and was also included. And then if you look at any of the tables, for instance, we can go to even the Glendale Armenian women, the attachment. If you just look at the first table, the source is U.S. Census Bureau, 2010, 2015, and 2021. Oh, and 2021 American Community Survey 5-year estimates. And so each table has the source of the information. That report is highly footnoted to indicate where all of the data came from.
I see that. Thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
Okay. Any other discussion, comments?
I have a question. How did they determine the Armenian population in Glendale?
How did they determine? Well, I think it was self-identifying when they did various surveys. I think it was self-identifying. Somebody identified themselves as an Armenian.
So, go ahead.
In the census? When
No, the census does not. That's why it's made up of some of these smaller surveys.
So what survey did they fill out that they are Armenian?
Well, I don't know that it was actually a survey that filled out, but if you look at that attachment again, the footnote, let's see.
What page are you on?
I'm on page 1 of the Glendale's Armenian Women, the attachment. Let's see. I think some of it was the Adventist Health Report, the American Community Survey Report. And so I think in any of these surveys, you have to self-identify yourself. The problem has been that normally Armenians are lumped under white or Caucasian. So this was an effort to break it out.
So,
Yes, sir.
Chair, I do know that Dr. Abajian is watching. Unfortunately, she's sick today. She's not here. She did text me the answer to the question, and it was the ancestry question on the census.
Thank
With
you.
how many Armenian women?
Thank you for that clarification. Yes.
okay.
And I believe there is work that's being done for the upcoming next census, which would be 2030, to have a breakout of various ethnic groups, more complete, rather than these larger categories. I can't speak to it with authority, but I believe that that is underway, which would certainly make the 2030 census data more meaningful.
But if there is already a bubble to fill in for ancestry, why would there be a need for the ethnicity? I was under the impression that I was definitely under the impression that the census did not offer that differentiation and did not allow Armenians to be subdivided, even though if they marked white, to be subdivided as Armenian. which was the need for these various sources.
Yes, we're talking about the 2030 census, that there's a movement to have that.
Right, but what I'm trying to understand is the response from Dr. Abejian that it was from the census and the ancestry that was filled out as Armenian.
I think it was the American Community Survey, in part.
Chair and Commissioner Perrion, I am speaking with Dr. Abajian now. She is going to call in to answer your questions.
Okay.
If you can give about 30 seconds,
Sure,
she is attempting
sure.
to call in.
And while she's calling in, I'd like to comment, I think these are this is an excellent reason why it would help us to have the subject matter experts who did actually prepare this meeting, this report, to be present the way they were at the first round, in the 2015 report. Then they can clearly answer how they got the statistics. The other thing that I can't help but think, if this is coming from, if the breakout of the Armenian population or women is coming from a data source, can we, with what level of confidence, and state that that's an actual representation of the census, or is it just a small slice of what the Armenians are responding to? It's just, if you have one data set and you look at a subsection of it, fine, but if you're combining two different data sets, how does that fit in? And how does that really represent the overall Armenian? In other words, this report on the other women, is there of Armenian women, is there a possibility that a certain percentage of the Armenian women are not represented with this data?
Chair Lambalot, Commissioners, Commissioner Perrion, I do have Dr. Abejian, our city clerk, on the line. I'm going to go online with her right now.
Okay.
Susie, Dr. Abejian, you are live. Can you hear me?
Thank you, Chair Lambalot and Commissioners. I apologize for not being at the meeting in person. I was tested positive for COVID, and I'm not feeling great, but I had intended to make a presentation for the commission, but unfortunately I was not able to be there in person. I could answer some of your questions regarding the Armenian data. So currently the census does not collect data on Armenians that's very thorough. The only indication of how we know who's Armenian is through the self-identification question, the ancestry question that folks have to have to opt in order for them to check. And based on this, there's only approximately 500,000 Armenians in the entirety of the United States. And we know for a fact that that's a severe undercounting of the Armenian population. So unless we have a checkbox and unless we are meaningfully listed on the census, I don't think we're going to get very accurate data on the Armenian population. But given all of this, I think even with this limited data and even with this data that's not completely accurate, it does give us some picture of what our community is dealing with, whether it comes to poverty levels, and that's something that's addressed in the separate addendum. It's the status of Armenian women when it comes to poverty and also housing and a few other items. Again, this data is not complete because currently the census does not collect meaningful and comprehensive data on the Armenian population. It's very limited. It's only through the ancestry question. And that's why it's important to highlight this and highlight the emissions also. The report also makes sure that it mentions the emissions because it's really important for the census to see the need in our community and to enable us to collect more comprehensive and meaningful data on our population in Glendale.
Thank you, Dr. Bajian. We'll open it for questions again to you, but I'd like to also point out that this section on Armenian women and the various footnotes in the report simply were not in the last report. So and any report has qualifications on the data, and if you look through the report, you'll see. But we have this data that we didn't have before, and there was an effort, a huge effort actually this time, to find what we could include with regard to the Armenian population, given that it's a report on Glendale women and girls. Otherwise, the report would look very similar it would be very general. Okay, anybody have questions or comments for Dr. Bajian?
I have a question.
Madam Chair, would you like to open the hearing?
Yes. We will now open the public hearing. Are there any comments? Anyone who would like to speak?
There are no callers.
Thank you.
I have a question. When and how were these surveys requested to determine how many Armenians were in the city? Where were they sent? Were they sent to people's homes, or how were they requested? How were they asked?
Well, they weren't requested for the purpose of this report. Mount St. Mary's uses the data that it gathers through various surveys, not conducted by Mount St. Mary's, but their government surveys, the hospital surveys. But I'll let Dr. Bajian speak to that as well.
Yes. So basically, the data is from the latest census data, as well as the American Community Survey, which is conducted in between the census. As you know, we had the 2020 census. The next census is in 2030, but within the 10-year period, the census conducts many census projects. It's called the American Community Survey. So within this as well, there is an ancestry question, and the census has been testing different and new categories, and they did that in the last round as well. So that's the way that we have some information on Armenians. Again, this is not complete. It's a gross underestimation of the Armenian population. And research shows that when people do not see themselves reflected in a questionnaire like the census questionnaire, they're less likely to fill it out, and also to give specific information on who they are, on their background, if it's not already listed on the questionnaire. So again, the data is from the American Community Survey, the latest census data, and also we have data like Chair Lamblot mentioned from the county service area number 2. And also we have some data from the 2 hospitals in the city, from the Adventist Hospital as well as from Glendale Memorial for the health data.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Dr. Bajian? Comments?
Again, going back to, because there are multiple data sources, I am wondering how the data was compiled and rolled up. And this would be for the Armenian women's section. When you have different blocks of data, how was it rolled up and how was it compiled? And I understand your statement that the data is not completely accurate, which I personally have an issue with, because as soon as I hear that, I obviously will question the information that's put in front of me. And again, going back, I think it would behoove us and be to our benefit to have the subject matter experts who, who put the raw data or, gleaned the data and compiled all this, to at least be present in these discussions as well.
Commissioner Perrian, from what I'm understanding is you're questioning how the data was gathered once we find out how the data was gathered, that's not going to change the report itself, because the numbers are the numbers, right? So the numbers are presented to us, and if they tell you they gathered it one way versus another, that's not going to change the ultimate report. The report has the numbers that are already gathered. They will not go and gather new data to write a new report. The report is written as is based on the data that we have. Your questions to me are not about necessarily the report itself, but how the information was gathered.
And then perhaps once I'm satisfied with the answers, maybe some bits and pieces of it might have to be redone. I'm just uneasy with the statement that this information is not completely accurate.
I think it's not completely accurate through no fault of anyone other than there's sparse data gathering on specific ethnicities, including Armenians. So the option is to have something or to have nothing. And so we have something this time. We obviously would qualify it. If we're presenting it, it's qualified in the report, it's qualified in the attachment, that, you know, any report is qualifications. But the fact is that we have some data, and before we had no data. So that's, I think it's accurate to say it's incomplete, but again, any data set is incomplete. But my understanding is Mount St. Mary's University had to really dig deep to find the sources, and I know we even provided them with the hospital survey source because there's just so little data specific to Armenian women. Dr. Bajian, have I characterized that correctly?
Yes, I think that this is the best data that we have today on Armenian women. And if we do not include this data, then there would be no data on Armenians. So essentially, we either highlight the data, the little data that we have, or we completely erase Armenian women and just subsume it under the white category with no reference to the Armenian, to the separate Armenian category. So that's really the choice. And also, we could delay the approval of this report and have one of the researchers present at the next commission meeting. However, this will disable us from going ahead and having the community meetings and also presenting on different pieces of this report. It would just delay the process, and that would be fine if that's what the commission would like. We could have had one of the researchers here today. However, she's out of the country, and I am not sure when she's returning. I think she will be available at the next commission meeting. If that's what the commission desires, then we can reach out to the researcher, the head researcher, and have her present at the next meeting.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I have a question. Whether the information is concise or incomplete, having the numbers for the Armenian community, how will we benefit knowing this, or how will the Armenian women benefit from, on what levels will they benefit from knowing this information?
I think this is beneficial because when you know that there are gaps in resources, when you know that there are gaps in terms of serving the community receiving services, then that would enable us to have a better understanding of how to address those gaps in serving the Armenian community. I think that if we do not have any data, we don't know where the issues are, and we don't know how to address what Armenian women are facing in our city.
And I think when we saw the first draft of the report, it really jumped out at me personally, and I'm sure Dr. Bajian too, that, you know, the data sets were Caucasian, Latinx, you know, it went, but there was no mention whatsoever of Armenians. So if we're presenting to an Armenian audience, or presenting to any audience in Glendale, I would think the first thing that would occur to them, to somebody in the audience, is where am I represented? So the idea was to, obviously through the report, we've indicated the limitations of the data under the tables, that, you know, there was not a breakout in large part for that particular ethnic group. And so the additional documentation was to say, well, at least we have some data. We can do something with it. And let's see, you know, let's present that. And it may open up some avenues for programs, for indicating that we need work in this area, et cetera. But at least we felt that our city would be represented in this report in a way it wouldn't have been as the first draft indicated.
Thank you. So to piggyback on that, can you give us some ideas of community services and resources that we will be able to utilize for the Armenian community?
Well, what we would do is to have town halls, to have the ad hoc committees look at the report, workshops, look at the report and say, the data is indicating this, the data is indicating a gap there, et cetera. What can we do about it as a commission? What can we recommend to city council? What programs, for instance, could we put on? But that would be as a result of us looking at the data, suggestions from the public, et cetera, and then going from there. But it provides us with a springboard to say to the community, this is what we found out, you know, what can the commission do for you? And then for us, obviously, to think about that as well.
I would like to comment, and just to be the devil's advocate, as far as what happens when you do take action on data that is incomplete. You may end up redirecting. There is the possibility of directing resources in maybe not the wisest direction because the data is incomplete. So there's just to be the devil's advocate, the flip side, yes, it's great that we have some data, but acknowledging that that data may be incomplete and inaccurate, and we are using that data to decide how to use resources. There is a risk, maybe not a big one, but there is the risk, and I just want that to be out there as well, that there is a risk that resources and the gaps may be misidentified.
Commissioner, my question would be, what would be your suggestion instead? Do we not discuss and have the data about Armenian women at all? Because we have very little data to start with.
So right now, I'm not sure. And I have to admit, I think part of the reason is that we didn't receive this report until Friday afternoon, and we've been asked to, comment on it so quickly. So I think need, a little bit more time to, make that decision. Number two, I really feel it is important that we have the Mount St. Mary's representatives to present that report. And lastly, I would like to see the report in the format that we would be presenting to the various organizations as part of this final draft package that we would be approving.
Thank you, Commissioner Perrian. I can comment on a couple of things. One, as far as your last point, I think it would differ depending on what group. If it was a Seroptimus group or an educational group, in other words, we wouldn't be adding anything. We would just be taking we would be probably providing the entire report to whatever group we're speaking in front of, but we would highlight, for instance, in slides, different sections. I think that's pretty much it.
I'm part of the ad hoc committee for the education awareness and outreach for specifically about the report, and we actually thought of separating it between different community forums. So one will be on health and poverty and domestic violence. Another one could be women and work and businesses and business owners in Glendale. And I think the presentation you give to one would look very different from the other. So I don't think it would be one universal presentation for everyone. My hesitation in holding off on approving is I would like to, first, there have been 4 different goes at this, so this has been going on for a while. I would like to approve it so we can now start presenting. If the Mount St. Mary's researchers come and talk to us, I don't think those numbers will change what they're presenting to us. We may have a better understanding what research they use to get to the numbers, but the numbers are the numbers. I don't think those things will change. I don't think the percentages will change. And the data we're relying on is not going to change. We're not going to have other people go out there and do personal census of all the people in Glendale, right? So we're just relying on the data we have, and the data is already presented. It's very black and white. So it's a matter of understanding how they came around to it, which is something that you're concerned with, and what data they use. But I just know that the data itself will not change. The numbers are the numbers.
Also, I'd like to comment, I mean, I think any report suffers from these disabilities. I mean, any report that you have, anytime, I mean, the government takes action, creates programs, allocates, millions and millions of dollars based on census data, which may not be accurate too, because it's self-reporting, right? So it may not be. But I think before we would spend, allocate resources to any program, we would not only rely on what's in the report, we would have community outreach, we would have public comment, we're talking about having town halls, that sort of thing. We would have input from the community or specific groups. I don't think we would, I'm sure we wouldn't just look at a statistic and say, okay, now we're going to, decide on this. It would be a multi-pronged process, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Abajian, any further comments?
I have no further comments unless there are any further questions. I will leave it at that.
And I'd like to thank the commission members for the commentary and looking at this and the thoughtful questions, et cetera. So that's what this is for. And so since there are no comments from the public, we'll close the public hearing. And I believe now we're ready. If there's no further discussion, questions at this point, I think we're ready to have a motion with regard to the report. And the alternatives are, may approve the final draft as presented, may provide general feedback on the report, may not approve the report, or may consider any other alternative. So does anybody have a motion? I'm not able to make a motion, so as chair.
I'd like to make a motion to approve as presented, the final draft.
Okay, any other motions or seconds? So if we don't have a second, then it is not approved? Or what
That
do we do?
particular motion would fail for lack of a second.
Okay,
But you would be free to make any other motion. There are some alternatives that are posed here. And maybe another, what I was hearing from Commissioner Perrion was this lack of time to consider the report because she received it on Friday. You may consider having a special meeting just so you could review this item. And then maybe Ms. Abajian would be here, or Commissioner Hojayan would also be here, and maybe the additional outreach to Mount St. Mary's individuals to come and present, if that is an option. I don't know if that is an option. And you could probably set that in shorter time, but you do have a motion and you're still waiting for a second. So if you don't get a second, like I said, there's other alternatives here. Or you may consider calling a special meeting just for this item.
so just to clarify, there is no second on alternative 1 approving the final draft as presented?
I could also say that if you'd like to second it, you could pass the gavel to the vice chair.
Vice chair is not here.
Well, to someone else next to you.
Okay. Well, may I pass well then, so Commissioner Perrin is not vice chair.
That's fine. You can pass the gavel to any other commissioner. She's made the motion, so I would encourage you to pass it to one of the other commissioners to
Okay.
your right,
Okay.
and then make the second.
Okay, then I will pass the gavel to Commissioner Perrin, and I will second the motion to approve the final draft. Roll call, please.
And we would listen for any other comments or on this particular motion at this time. And if there are none, then we would do the roll call.
And then there's opportunity for a second motion after the roll call.
Absolutely,
Okay.
yes.
May I motion for,
You can comment on this particular motion to approve the report as presented. If there are no comments on that, we'll take roll.
Commissioner Broussalian,
no.
Ojayan, Perrin,
No.
Tatians?
Yes.
Chair Lambalot.
Yes.
So this motion would not pass because it did not carry a majority vote. And at this point, you may continue to deliberate. You can entertain a different motion. You can do anything else.
Okay. Is there further discussion or an additional motion?
I would like to motion the special meeting to get the presentations and the people who participated in this, and just make sure that we all understand everything in full.
Okay.
So the motion would then be to continue to a different date, that date to be selected by staff through the assistance of the chair. We'll certainly make sure that everyone is available. We'll follow the Brown Act in making the notice. And certainly considering the timeliness and the length of time that's already gone into preparing the report, we'll try to make sure to find a date that is close in time, that doesn't stretch it out any longer than it needs to be. So I think at this point, the motion is to continue to a special meeting, and that motion would now need a second.
I'll second that motion.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Broussalian,
Yes.
Ojayan, Perrin,
Yes.
Tatians?
Yes.
Chair Lambalot.
Yes.
May I ask a question? How quickly can we have this special meeting, just so for time's sake?
But we will circle back with City Clerk Abajian, make sure that she's available, make sure that the additional individuals that you'd like to be here, that they're available. And I don't know how the relationship is established with them. They may just say that, they may require additional funds, they may be traveling. So we'll have to determine the significance of their presence at the next meeting. And then we will work with, I think staff will survey the commissioners to identify a date that works, a date that the chambers are available, and so on, just the logistics.
Okay, so if Dr. Abajian is available to further answer questions and some people aren't available to come, at least we can still have that special meeting, correct?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Well, I think the objective is to have someone from Mount St. Mary's here, if at all possible. Okay, we already did the roll call?
Yes. Do we want to move on to the next item?
Yeah, any other questions before?
No.
Okay, next item, please. Yes?
Since there will be more time to work on this, I think it would behoove us to have the PowerPoint also ready. So at least when we are approving the final draft, there could be a level of comfort of knowing what we're approving that is going to be used as the primary, docket at different organizations.
I think the comment was that the PowerPoint will vary with each audience. And so if you're asking for maybe a sample, I mean, is this going to
yeah,
be presented to the council as well? Maybe that's the PowerPoint that you utilize, the one that would be presented
Dr.
to City
Abajian
Council?
said she had a PowerPoint to present to us. I think she was going to present something to us.
Okay,
I think.
great.
And also, I would like to state that since we are going to be having a special meeting, which is obviously effort on the city's parts and all of our parts, I would assume that the commissioners will take it upon themselves to read the report.
Definitely.
Great. Okay, next item, please.
Next item is reports and information only. Item 8A, legislative update. I do have Kara Ross from Emmanuel Jones and Associates here.
Welcome, Kara. We're so happy to meet you in person. And I've said before, but I think it was just a terrific idea to have you at our meetings, either virtually or now in person, to go over the legislative content.
Certainly.
It's very helpful. And would you explain what you do? And also, would you also make sure that we understand that we're not going to be voting to support any particular legislation this time? It's for information only?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Certainly. Good afternoon, Chair Lamblot and members. Kira Ross with Emmanuel Jones. So I am the contract lobbyist for the city in Sacramento. So I deal with state legislation, state regulation, pretty much anything at the state level. Happy to come down here and be here in person. It's always a little bit better in person than virtually, so it's nice to be able to answer questions. Today is just an update on the legislation that we talked about last time that you voted on. The legislative package has not yet gone to council. I understand that that's tentatively scheduled for the 22nd of the month. But I did want to give you a quick status update on where the bills were in the legislative process. The legislature is back in session today. They have one more month of session before they finish on the 14th of September. And all bills have to have passed what is called the policy committee process. So they've gone through the discussions of the policy. All 6 of the bills are now in the fiscal committee. So they're either in a Senate Appropriations Committee or the Assembly Appropriations Committee. And when a bill goes to the Appropriations Committee, the thing that they're looking for is what is the cost to the state. So they're looking for cost or what's called a cost pressure. So there might be a direct cost, but if there's indirect cost to the state or direct costs of $100,000 or more, then all the bills go to sort of a holding pattern, sometimes called a suspense file. And so what the Appropriations Committee, the Fiscal Committee in the legislature does is they sit down and they look at all the bills that are moving through the process that have fiscal impact to the state at one time. So that's where the bills are going. They're either on the suspense calendar today or they're on their way to the suspense calendar. They'll take up that calendar of bills or file of bills on the Thursday or Friday, I think it's the 29th of August, Thursday or Friday before Labor Day weekend, and determine whether or not those bills are going to stay in committee or they'll come out of committee. And a lot of that is decisions that are made by leadership in both houses. And so all 6 of the bills are in the Appropriations Committee. We'll find out their fate about the 29th of August, and then the legislature has about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks until the 14th of September to make a final decision. And if the bills go to the governor, then the governor has until the 14th of August to either sign or veto legislation. So that's the update. I'll stop there and see if there are any questions.
And is the 14th of August next year, or?
No, it's this fall.
Oh, so not August, then?
September 14th,
Gotcha.
so next month, yeah.
Okay.
And then the bills will, all of the bills, they'll either go to the governor or not by the 14th of September, and then the governor has an additional month to sign or veto because he's got about 1,500 bills he's looking at. And then all of the 6 bills, unless they're an urgency clause, they'll go into effect on January 1 of next year.
Okay, great, thank you. So can you go over the bills that?
Yeah.
And give us the update?
Yeah, so the first bill was AB 246 by Assemblymember Pappen, and this deals with what are called PFAS and PFOS. And these are toxic chemicals that are in menstrual products, and this would require by January 2025 prohibit the manufacture and sale and distribution in California of menstrual products. So thinking menstrual pads and things that have these toxic chemicals in them. And that bill is in the Senate Appropriations Committee right now. AB 1015 by Assemblymember Calderon. This was a diaper and wipe distribution program and requires the State Department of Social Services to administer a statewide diaper and wipe distribution program for low-income families that have infants or toddlers up to 36 months of age. So this would be funding for someone that's low income that's probably already receiving some kind of services through food, family services, and would give them additional funding for a diaper and wipe program. AB 1203 is, the last bill is on the suspense file, and it's in the Senate Appropriations Committee. AB 1203 by Assemblymember Baines is a sales tax exemption for breast pumps and related supplies. And that bill is on the suspense file as well in the Senate Appropriations Committee. AB 1432, this is a bill that is sponsored by the State Insurance Commissioner. Current law today says that if you are in business inside or outside of California and you hire a California insurance company or you employ a California employee, you have to provide all coverage that is required by any other insurance company that's based in California. That includes women's services, it includes gender and affirming care, it includes all of those kinds of services that today the law requires. There is a loophole in that law. If it is a company that's not based in California and they use an insurance company that is not based in California, they do not have to provide all the same services that anybody else in California has to provide. This bill closes that loophole, and it says if you are a company that's outside of California and you employ you use a non-California based insurance company, but you employ workers in California, then you have to have the same insurance that is required of every other insurance company in California, regardless of what that insurance covers. So you have to follow California law if you're going to have employees in California. That bill is in the Appropriations Committee as well. It's not yet gone to the suspense file, but I suspect it will. SB 257, which is Senator Portantino's bill on health care coverage and diagnostic imaging, requires a health care service plan contract that provides hospital, medical, or surgical coverage or a self-insured employee issued or renewed on and after January 1, 2025 to provide coverage without imposing a cost share for medically necessary diagnostic breast exams and breast imaging. So this is someone that if they need to go get a MRI or they need to get an ultrasound on their breast for some reason, that insurance companies are going to have to cover that in the normal cost share. And that bill is on, I believe that one's in the Assembly Appropriations Committee, awaiting for a hearing. And then the last one is AB 260, and this deals with CalWORKS and supportive services and includes menstrual product costs as a necessary supportive service and makes it as part of the benefits that somebody gets if they're in that program today. One of the questions that came up was why the $20? The $20 is actually from the National Organization of Women did a survey and found that women spend on average $20 a month. And so that's where they came up with the $20. And that bill is, I believe, on the suspense calendar in Assembly Appropriations Committee. And those are the 6 bills.
Thank you. And I'll open it for discussion. I had a question. Could you explain the suspense file? You said if the fiscal impact is going to be more than $100,000 annually or general?
Annually cost to the state. So they look at every bill and they look at, when they're looking at the state level, when they're looking at bills, they're looking at the cost to a state agency or a state department. And so if the bill comes up with typically $100,000 or more, then they set it aside. And they call that the suspense file. And they do that for every bill that comes through the fiscal committee. And then they kind of look at them all in one big package. They're given an overall number, say it's 25 million or 100 million, that they're determined that the legislature can spend on legislation, on bills that have costs. And so they want to look at the same idea as if you had a whole bunch of bills at home and you want to look at them all at the same time and be able to budget for them. Same idea. So they set everything aside and they say, suspense calendar is going to do its own, we're going to hold them all there, and on one day they're going to release them all or let them go. And those are decisions by leadership very often. It's one of the few times where it's a vote that they're going to vote on each bill, but it's dictated by what leadership has decided to do with bills.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions or comments?
It's great to see you in person.
Yes.
And I actually had a question about Senate Bill 257, healthcare coverage. Is the cost share, does that mean the copay essentially? So it would eliminate the copay?
I believe it does. I want to double check that answer, but I believe it does eliminate. Hang on. It just mandates that has to be. It's not the copay is not eliminated. It mandates that this has to be covered by insurance.
Understood. Okay. All right. Great. Thank you.
I have a question to follow that. Is this for all women or?
This particular bill will be all women statewide.
I have some comments and small questions. May I? Thank you. It may have been like this for many years before I came here, but specifically regarding bills, when we are referred to as CSW on some of the documentation here, like when the bills come to our commission, we're referred to, or it's referred to as CSW. Now, there's state CSW and there's local CSW. And forgive my ignorance, but I need to, look at this. So I've noticed that when these bills are brought to our commission, the position shows support. But this is me. This leads me as a commissioner to believe that the Glendale CSW has already taken a position on this, when in fact, the Glendale CSW hasn't yet had a chance to learn about certain bills, discuss them, and decide whether or not to move forward and support them as drafted or have the language amended. Can this be done so that the Glendale CSW doesn't feel influenced on any bill one way or the other?
I think, first of all, that there's no reference to the California Commission on the Status of Women in here. And I think there's a recommendation, support or not support. Is that correct?
So at your last meeting in May, was it? First week of May, I believe. You did the position that you took was a recommendation position that then would go to council for a final approval.
For their direction.
For their direction.
And how does the recommendation come about?
The recommendation was bills that we sit down, I usually sit down with staff at the beginning of the year, and we look at bills that have been introduced, and we look at a couple of different sources. I will sort of go through and find bills that are related to women and women issues, but then we'll also look at the Legislative Women's Caucus and the bills that they have put on their priority list. We'll look at other sources of lists from what are bills that are coming up as priorities, and we recommend a number of bills to staff and talk through which ones we think might be appropriate for the commission to look at. Certainly, if the commission has their own bills that they'd like to look at or they'd like to take up, that certainly is the prerogative of the commission. And then it comes before you, and we did this in May, where I brought the package of 6 bills and we talked through them, and then as far as I know, you voted to support each of them in May, and then the delay has yet to go for final confirmation to the city council. So the full council will take this up on the 22nd of August.
So in other words, we have the option. I think there have been rare but instances where we did not vote to recommend a particular bill. And the recommendation, if we support the recommendation, it goes to city council, and then as I understand it, Ms. Varpetian, you could elaborate here if need be, is that then the city council has the option of writing a letter to the bill's author and saying that the Glendale City and Glendale Commission on the Status of Women support that bill. We don't have any other role in it. Is that correct?
That's correct, because the commission is advisory to the city council.
Gotcha. Does that answer your question?
Not exactly. So when these legislative bills are given to us as an update, we receive them before our meetings where it shows position, support.
That's from the last meeting. We voted to support.
No, even before, in the May agenda and in the May package, it says position, support.
It was a recommendation. That's a recommendation. We can support or not support.
So is there other verbiage we could use instead of support? Because
when you're conveying a position on bills, so there are a couple of options that you can do. You can do support in concept, so you support the idea, but maybe you have issues with the specific language. You can say a support if amended, if you'd like to see a change to the bill, or maybe you'll support it if it's changed to have specific types of an amendment or language that is more preferable. You could do oppose. You could do oppose unless amended, so it's a little bit stronger in the oppose direction. Those are sort of the customary stances that people at the state legislature or people that are working within the realm of the state legislature take on bills. Some organizations do things like favor or not favor, but when you're writing a letter, you'd want to convey it in a support if amended, oppose unless amended fashion.
Chair Lambelout, I think the comment isn't so much on the word support, but the position. And so I think
Yeah.
what you're suggesting is that it be recommended position.
Exactly.
And then the question is, who's
That
the
makes better sense.
recommendation coming from? Is it from staff or is it from our consultants? And so I think that's the clarification you're looking for.
Correct, thank you.
So the verbiage of support or variations of it is fine, but I think for the feedback is more to staff to call that recommended position.
Yeah, that's fine.
May I comment also? I think, and this might be splitting hairs, but I now see, because I was going back and forth, Commissioner Brusalian, your concern in the verbiage of the summation of each individual bill. Quite a few of them, or even in the background analysis, it refers to the Commission on the Status of Women. We have always recognized ourselves as CSW. However, now that I'm looking at the cover page of Mount St. Mary's report, there is the Glendale Commission on the Status of Women, and then there is the California Commission on the Status of Women. So I think if somebody really wanted to be nitpicky, I think I see where the confusion may be in reading some of this verbiage. Is this recommendation coming from the California Commission on the Status of Women, or is this from the Glendale Status of Women? So it may behoove us then to specify each time. Otherwise, it may be splitting hairs, I understand, but for nitty-gritty and detail observations, that may be something that might we might want to look at.
And let me comment on that. There are a number of commissions on the status of women throughout the state, so it could be the Pasadena Commission on the Status of Women. I think that if it would be helpful under recommendation, the first sentence, we could just say the Glendale Commission on the Status of Women.
Correct.
But I think it's a given through the whole report. We're only dealing with the Glendale Commission on the Status of Women.
If I could maybe just add
Yes.
some clarification to that too. The letter that would be drafted to demonstrate the support would be on Glendale letterhead. And so it would come from the Glendale City Council. It could also add the language, the Glendale Commission on the Status of Women, but then abbreviate it to CSW so that there isn't this lengthy description
Right.
each time there's the word. So it likely already says that.
Oh, no doubt. I'm sure, I wasn't even thinking of that, but that would be the most formal and official and final word. I was just, when Commissioner Brusalian mentioned it, I was flipping back, looking back and forth, and I could see.
In our own reports, that may be superfluous because
Okay.
it is the Glendale Commission on the Status of Women.
So it wouldn't matter then?
No.
Okay.
But on that point, where it says recommendation, it says this report is being provided as information only regarding the state legislation that the Commission on the Status of Women recommended to the City Council. So are we talking about the California State Commission of the Status of Women here, or the Glendale Commission of the Status of Women? It doesn't clarify.
Okay, I didn't follow the exact page where you were.
The recommendation on the
Page?
page 2A, and then there's an 8 on the bottom. Just to
Okay.
point out that, there needs to be,
Do you mean at where it says 2015? Is that where you're reading?
no, at the top of the page, on On the bottom of the page, it
This
says
report is
2A.
being provided as
Yes.
information only regarding the state legislation, and the Commission on the Status of Women recommended. Okay, so the state or any other commission on the status of women is not in an advisory position to the city council. This one is. So all of this information relates to this commission's role as it relates to this city council. Unless there's a different commission that is at play, that should be identified, that should be spelled out. But otherwise, the entire default would be this commission.
Okay, so for the position portion for these bills, any bill, should it be that the position says recommended to support by Glendale CSW?
So, Dr. Avajian, through text, is advising Aram that in May, the commission took action to support all of these bills. And so at this point, the description of it being support is in fact accurate. And what we're getting today is an update on the status of each of these bills.
No, I'm talking about moving forward.
So moving forward, it would be, it doesn't need to say CSW recommended position because it pertains just to this commission's recommendations.
Okay, but we will maybe say recommended to support in the future?
Yes, and then
Okay.
what we can do is, as in this meeting where the position has already been adopted, make that clear that this position was adopted at the May meeting, and so therefore, at this meeting, when you're looking at the 6 bills, if you'd given different directions, say to one of the 6, it would say that 5 of them received a support report, 1 of them received a, additional information report or something like that.
And again, I'd like to encourage, I think the discussion is terrific, that we're asking these questions and going into detail. But I'd like to point out that even if we do receive the packet, the agenda packet, we would receive it the latest the Friday before the Monday meeting, that I think it would behoove us all to read through it over the weekend and before the meeting so that we're better informed at that time. Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Kira. We really appreciate it.
Yep. I'll be back, I think, in November to give you an update on the final disposition on the bills.
Okay, wonderful.
Thank
Thanks
you
so
very
much. Okay, so we have no action to take on the legislation. So next item on the agenda, please.
Item number 9 is Commission on the Status of Women staff comments.
Okay. I would like to open this to discussion. I have a few myself. I want to report, as you know, Dr. Avajian has participated by phone. She's not here today, but she did want to convey that the staff person, the administrative analyst, who will be the staff person for the commission, is being interviewed and that process is in the final stages. So by the November meeting, we should have a staff person. And secondly, the report on the strategic plan that was approved at the last commission meeting, Dr. Avajian and I presented it to City Council on June 6th. Before the City Council, there was some questions and discussions, and it was ultimately approved by the City Council. And now I'd like to say, let's have reports on the ad hoc committees.
I'm happy to report on the Education Awareness and Outreach Ad Hoc Committee. Myself and Commissioner Kojayan had met, and we had talked about doing a community forum to present the findings of the report. We had looked at doing it at the end of September because the grant we received had to be spent by a certain time. So this may actually, for us not approving it, potentially delays our ability to do this presentation and use the grant funds. I don't know if we can get an extension on it or not, but we had thought of doing something in the fall and something in the spring. and kind of dividing it up towards one will be focusing on health and domestic violence, and the other one would be focusing on employment and women in Glendale. And we were going to reach out to various organizations like Adventist Health, YWCA, to come and present and participate as part of the forum.
Thank you. Any other ad hoc committee reports?
I'd like to update.
Okay.
I am on the Strategic Aim Number 2 Ad Hoc Committee for Policy Development, Advocacy, and Advising with Chair Lambalot. And we met with Dr. Bejan last week, and we have scheduled to meet regularly in between the quarterly meetings. And one of the things we talked about that I want to share is our ability as commissioners to work with our lobbyist and consultant upstream for the legislative matters. Historically, the commission has been presented with the bills. Again, the weekend before from the meeting, and during the meeting, we are asked to make a decision. So to be aligned and better aligned with the definition for the strategic aim of policy development, it is our job or our responsibility as commissioners to recommend to City Council legislation and policies relevant to the status of women and girls in Glendale, advise on and advocate for women's and girls' issues in the community as appropriate. Although how we manage this is fine, but I'm a firm believer that you can always improve on the current status of how things are done. So what what I proposed, and Chair Lambalot and Dr. Bejan both agreed that this is a good idea for the commissioners to become involved upstream in the vetting process and be looped into the process of selecting the bills and vetting the process, and perhaps even getting involved in the cost analysis, risk analysis if it's done, prior to the time that it comes to the entire commission on a quarterly basis.
Thank you, Commissioner Perrian. I'd just like to comment on one thing. I don't think we have the ability to do the cost analysis. That's the Appropriations Committee of the legislature. And I don't think we have any of those facts and figures, but we can, obviously, I know you have a great interest in doing this, and so you'll be able to be more involved and tell us the case there.
And I can understand not the actual cost analysis or any analysis, but be in the loop and be informed as the numbers are being presented and considered. I mean, it's part of the consideration process.
Right. Right.
May I make a?
Yes, of course.
So I agree that we need to be kept.
I'm sorry. I just want to say that this item is not on the agenda, so we just have to be careful on how much discussion we have on this. And it might be a good idea for us to post sometime at the beginning of the agenda, just general reports on ad hoc committee efforts, so that you could fully have the opportunity to ask questions, express opinions, and then have a broader discussion. The staff comments are generally intended for very brief statements about updates that you have done. So I don't want to cut you off, but at the same time, we have to make sure that we're not opening up a new area of discussion and sharing what we agree with, because obviously we have not invited the public to be here to hear on this particular issue.
No, I just wanted to agree with Commissioner Perrian that we need to be kept in the loop on certain bills that are going to be brought forth to us as a commission to discuss and decide whether we're going to be in support of or not.
that okay? It was on the other point. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments?
That's it.
Emma?
Thank you.
I just want to say something quick. Seeing as this is my last meeting, I'm just very thankful to the commission, and I'm proud of all the work that we've accomplished over the past 2 years. I've learned so much from the meetings and from all of you and from all of the ad hoc meetings that I've attended also. I plan to take everything that I've learned this fall to UCLA, where I'll study physiology, and I also plan to stay involved in community politics. I can't wait to see who the next 2 student ex officios will be, and I'm hopeful that they'll learn a lot too. And I just wanted to thank the commission and all of you for having me and electing me to stay here for an extra term.
Well, you jumped the gun. We were going to thank you and congratulate you, and we appreciate all your help over the last 2 years, and look forward to seeing you again, coming up here before the commission if there's anything that you'd like to bring before the commission. And we wish you the best of luck at UCLA.
Thank you.
Yes, good luck. Thank you for your service.
Thank you so much.
I would also like to make a comment that I would encourage the commission members to, if at all possible, please appear at the city council meetings. I've been accepting proclamations, and I think Commissioner Perrion came one time, but other than that, no one has been able to come apparently. So please do come, so should support the city council and also these events, Purple Tie Awards, et cetera. Please do try to attend as a commission member.
Thank you for that reminder.
Thank you.
Do my best.
Anything else? Okay, so I think we can move to adjourn.
I second.
I think,
Was there a motion?
Oh,
no, there's not a motion because I can't make the motion. Somebody want to make the motion?
I motion to adjourn.
I second. Sorry.
Okay, meeting is adjourned at 5:47 PM. Thank you.